How can we increase our metabolic rate? How can we bring that metabolism up?
Yeah, well, the biggest contributors to your metabolic rate is just your body weight. If you have more body mass, then your metabolic rate is going to be higher just by virtue of that. And but at the same time, like muscle mass is still, let's say, healthier way of going about it. So just building more muscle is going to increase your resting metabolic rate, so that you would burn more calories even at rest. Compared to, let's say, doing cardio only, then you do burn calories more. You burn more calories doing cardio, but you stop burning the calories after you stop exercising. So whereas if you do resistance training and you build muscle tissue, then the kind of muscle tissue is going to start to burn more calories even if you're not exercising. So it's a more, let's say, sustainable approach to weight loss. Which doesn't mean that you shouldn't do cardio. You should do both. But from a weight loss perspective, like having more muscle tissue and doing resistance training is just more superior.
Yeah.
And besides having more muscle mass, is also eating a diet that is higher in protein, because protein burns the most calories to digestion. So you burn 20 to 30% calories for digesting protein compared to 7 to 10% of carbohydrates and like 1 to 3% of fats. So usually higher protein diets are in at these weight loss studies, they're definitely always superior to other diets because of this aspect. So you're kind of losing, or you're wasting away calories for digesting the protein, which is a better thing for weight loss.
Right. So the thermic effect of food, right? You're just, burning calories from simply digesting that. Now, have they looked at it versus actually chewing the food versus like having a protein shake? Is that matter about the amount of calories that's going to be burnt just from the digestion process?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think I haven't seen specifically that studies, but I would imagine that the chewing the food is going to be superior for at least like the calorie aspect. That you burn more calories for digesting the food that you chew, and because like the liquid calories, they get absorbed definitely much easier, and there's less wasting, if that makes sense. Like there's the higher fiber content is also going to reduce the amount of calories you absorb. So adding like vegetables and salads into there as well would kind of lower it down even further, at least a little bit.
Yeah, that makes sense. How should people train to add muscle tissue to increase that metabolic rate? You have a specific protocol that you like people to follow?
The most effective way of adding muscle tissue is to do resistance training. And resistance training is just referring to, your body is encountering some form of resistance that requires you to exert like near maximum effort. And that can be in the form of like calisthenics, that can be in the form of weightlifting, CrossFit, kettlebells, yoga even is, in essence, yoga is resistance training. But yeah, like any form of training usually does. But the main, let's say, principle of progressing in resistance training is a progressive overload. So you need to get stronger over time. That means like adding more weight to the bar, doing some more difficult exercises, or even like increasing the overall volume. So instead of doing like 2 sets, you do 4 or 5 sets. All those things can be considered almost like a progressive overload, so that you're able to do more work, heavier work, and maybe rest less as well.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Is there a certain just do 2-3 days a week of body weight training, or they're just looking for just that kind of mechanical stress and damage? That you found anything that's more efficient for people?
Yeah, well, depends on where they're coming from, or the like level of expertise. So like a beginner person, they can train even like once a week, and they can see some progress quite fast. Because if you're new, then like the muscle building signal that you get from resistance training is going to stay elevated even up to a week. Whereas if you're more advanced, then the muscle building signal kind of drops out after day 2 or so. So it stays elevated for 24 to 48 hours or so. So like the more advanced you become, then unfortunately, like the more frequently you also kind of need to work out if you're like trying to add additional tissue. It's like very easy to maintain muscle tissue and prevent it from losing it. Like you can only train like once a week and maintain it very nicely. But if you want to add, then you kind of need to increase the frequency. And generally in some studies, like a higher frequency training, at least to a certain point, appears to be superior. So training your muscle group 3 to 4 times a week usually is a bit better than doing it only once or twice a week.
Right.
And that's why like for beginners, like a whole body training routine can be quite good, but like a bro split, like a push pull leg split can also be good. It depends on how you structure it. But yeah, like generally I would say that at minimum you would want to do resistance training for 2 to 3 times a week, and upward to 3 to 4. And going beyond that is going to be probably like too much volume that it's hard to recover from that. And overtraining is actually going to slow down the process of building muscle.